Have you ever noticed something weird? Some people are completely losing their minds over a game, screaming, crying, shaking, emotionally destroyed over something happening on a screen between people they don't even know. And then there are other people who just don't feel anything. No excitement, no anger, no emotional pull at all. And that creates a question most people don't say out loud. Is that normal? Or is it something deeper? Because neuroscience might actually suggest something interesting here. If sports do nothing to you emotionally, it doesn't necessarily mean you're broken. It might mean your brain is operating on a completely different system that most people never even think about. Let's start from the beginning. Why do people care so much about sports in the first place? Because sports were never just games. Your brain doesn't see them as games. It sees them as survival. For almost all of human history, survival depended on tribes. If you had a tribe, you lived. If you didn't, you didn't. That wiring is still inside your brain today. It never disappeared. It just changed form. Now, instead of hunting together, we watch teams together. Instead of defending territory, we defend our side. That's why sports feel emotional. Because your brain is not watching a game. It is simulating a tribe fighting for status, dominance, survival. Even though logically you know it is just entertainment, your nervous system reacts like it is real. And here is something even deeper. Your brain does not distinguish that well between real social threat and symbolic social threat. So when your team is losing, part of your brain processes it almost like a social loss, like rejection, like exclusion from a group. Now here's the first mind-blowing layer most people do not know. There is a well-studied genetic variation called the DRD4 dopamine receptor gene. It affects how strongly your brain responds to novelty, reward, and social stimulation. Some variations of this gene are linked to higher thrill-seeking and stronger engagement in competitive or group-based activities. But here's what most people miss. It is not just about excitement, it is about sensitivity to social meaning itself. Some brains are essentially amplifiers for group identity. They take neutral events and turn them into emotional significance. Others do not amplify it at all. So when sports feel pointless to you, it might literally be because your brain filters out symbolic group meaning more aggressively. Now let's go deeper. When people watch their team play, their brain releases chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. Dopamine creates anticipation. Oxytocin creates bonding. This is the same chemical system involved in trust, relationships, and emotional attachment. So when fans say we won, they are not just speaking emotionally. Their brain actually processes it as belonging. But here's the strange part. The players do not know them. There is no real social relationship. It is completely one-sided, and yet the emotional experience is real. Now here is the second mind-blowing layer. Studies in cognitive neuroscience show something called social conformity bias. It means that humans do not just form opinions independently. They unconsciously adjust emotional intensity based on the group around them. But there's an even deeper version of this effect. People do not just match opinions. They match emotional intensity. That means if everyone around you is screaming, your brain increases emotional output just to stay in sync with the group. So sports is not just entertainment, it is emotional synchronization at scale. Now here is something most people never connect. We are now living in an attention economy where most stimulation is short form, fast, and constantly shifting. Short videos, reels, constant scrolling. Your brain gets used to instant novelty every few seconds. But sports is different. Sports forces sustained attention on one narrative for a long time, and that creates a split in how people experience it. Some brains crave constant novelty spikes, others are more tolerant of long-form uncertainty and narrative tension. So when someone says, "I just get bored watching sports," that might not be disinterest. That might be an attention architecture mismatch. Now let's go deeper again, because the real engine behind sports obsession is dopamine. And not just dopamine in general, but something more specific, unpredictable dopamine. Every moment in a game creates uncertainty. Will they score? Will they miss? Will they win? Will everything collapse? That uncertainty is what keeps the brain locked in. Because dopamine is not really about pleasure, it is about anticipation. And anticipation spikes constantly in sports. Every play becomes a micro event. Every second could change everything. That creates repeated dopamine hits over and over again. And this is the same reinforcement system seen in gambling, social media, and addictive reward loops. Psychologists call it intermittent reinforcement. And it is one of the most powerful behavioral patterns the brain can fall into. Because the brain does not get addicted to reward itself. It gets addicted to uncertainty of reward. But now the key question, if this system is so universal, why does it not affect everyone the same way? One explanation from behavioral neuroscience is that not everyone has the same sensitivity to social reward systems. But there is another layer, identity reinforcement loops. Some people build identity through external systems, teams, groups, communities, belonging. Others build identity internally, values, independence, self-consistency. And here's the important part. Once your identity system is formed early, it becomes your default emotional filter for everything. That means sports is not just interesting or not interesting. It gets filtered through your identity system. Now let's go even deeper. Sports fans often experience something called basking in reflected glory. When their team wins, they say, "We won." When their team loses, they say, "They lost." The identity shifts depending on outcome. It becomes flexible, tied to external success or failure. But non-sports people do not do this. Their identity is more stable. It does not fluctuate based on external symbolic outcomes. Now here's another layer most people do not think about. There's something called emotional substitution. When the brain does not get emotional stimulation from one system, it automatically searches for another source. So non-sports individuals often substitute that emotional intensity with intellectual curiosity, creative flow, personal goals, deep conversations, internal reflection, same neurological need, different output channel. Now here's something subtle but very important. Sports also function as a massive social coordination system. They align millions of people into shared emotional timing. Everyone reacts at the same moment. Everyone feels tension at the same moment. Everyone releases emotion at the same moment. That creates a collective rhythm. And when you are outside that rhythm, you naturally experience less shared emotional synchronization with society, which can sometimes feel like being slightly out of phase socially. Now here's something even deeper. There is a concept in psychology called social proof. It means people assume something is important simply because many others treat it as important. So if everyone around you reacts strongly to sports, your brain interprets it as something meaningful by default. But if your brain does not adopt that signal, you are essentially immune to that layer of social influence. And that can feel isolating in some environments, especially where sports is a major cultural connector. But there is also a quiet advantage to that. People who are not deeply embedded in collective emotional systems often develop stronger internal continuity. They are less influenced by external emotional waves, less reactive to group emotion, more stable in their internal state. Now zoom out for a second. What is actually happening here is not caring versus not caring about sports. It is two different ways of constructing emotional reality. One is externally synchronized, built through shared narratives, shared tension, shared outcomes. The other is internally generated, built through personal meaning, internal focus, and independent emotional systems. Both are human, both are valid, both come from the same brain machinery, just tuned differently. So if you don't care about sports, you are not missing a fundamental human experience. You are not broken. You are not lacking something essential. You are simply not wired to derive meaning from that particular system. Your brain prioritizes different signals, different forms of reward, different types of meaning, and the next time someone asks you, did you watch the game, and you genuinely don't care, it does not mean you're outside of human experience. It just means you are experiencing a different version of it, one that might be quieter, more internal, more self-directed. And here is the final thought. If your brain does not need external emotional events to feel meaning, then maybe you are not disconnected from life. Maybe you are just less dependent on watching it happen outside of you and more focused on building it inside of you.